We've got lyrics to go. It's episode 36 of For Our Edification. And thank you for joining me on this episode of For Our Edification, your personal leadership goodness podcast. I'm Eddie Francis, and For Our Edification is brought to you by Edify Ventures, LLC. Brand strategy and event experiences. Learn more at edifyventuresnola.com. And you can get past episodes of For Our Edification by going to eddiefrancis.com. You can also go to YouTube and you can check out some past episodes there, or just get the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. How about that? Why not? That is a question that seems to pop up a lot with the guests on this episode of For Our Edification. Austin Levy is his name. And this man will get an idea for some lyrics, so he'll go ahead, hit his studio. He'll get an idea for a business. He might go ahead and roll that out. And then there's some other stuff that he's gotten ideas for. But you know what it's led to? It's led to him being recognized as one of the Gambit's 40 under 40 here in New Orleans. So Austin joins us on this episode. Let's check him out. The views and opinions expressed on For Our Edification do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the hosts, guests, or any entities with which we are affiliated. He is an MC and he is a businessman. Austin Levy has been performing, writing, and producing for more than 2 decades. He's also been running the Hut Studios for more than 2 decades. And one of Austin's most recent ventures, I've been there, is Biscuits and Buns on Banks. It's a very cool restaurant. I do recommend it. This year, Austin was recognized in New Orleans as Gambit as one of their 40 under 40. Austin, my brother, welcome to For Our Edification. How are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, man. And I want you to know that is like the greatest podcast name and the most appropriate podcast name ever.
I know. And you know what? If people learn something, it's going to actually mean something.
Exactly, right?
So let me tell you, man, I really wanted to get you on the podcast. I mean, so first of all, I saw the 40 under 40 thing. And the first thing I thought when I saw that was very well deserved. Definitely deserved.
Thanks.
I know you have been working really hard at everything you've been doing for quite some time. And one of the things I appreciate the very most about you is that when I was doing the Real Talk show, you immortalized me, man. You put me in one of your rhymes. And that meant a lot to me. That meant a lot to me because I was just like, oh, I'm half of the crew. Now I feel like I'm actually half of the crew of the show.
Thanks. Exactly.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. So that's the only reason you're on the podcast, because you put me in your rhyme, man. But anyway. All right. Music career. When did you get into music? Why did you get into music? What got you there?
Our buddy Wild Wayne in a sort of unintentional kind of way. You know, he had the 9 o'clock props. That was pretty much the start of it for me.
Yeah.
And that was before cell phones, so I'm kind of old. But as a kid, you know, that was my goal. Like, I used to go to football practice and be like, man, you got to check me out. I'm going to be on 9 o'clock props tonight. And I never got the balls to do it. I never did it for a long time. And by the time I finally got confident enough to actually go through with trying to get on 9 o'clock props, I had all these songs and bars and stuff pre-written. It was like, tonight's going to be the night. And a few times I never got through, and then a couple other times, like, oh, damn, he actually picked up, click, kind of thing. So I had some jitters a few times. But yeah, that's kind of where it started at, ironically. It started off more or less as poetry. I'm an athlete, formerly, in another life, way back. I played football and ran track and all that stuff at Easton. Played Pop Warner football, middle school football, all that cool stuff. So that some things happened while I was in high school that forced me to actually take my poetry that I was writing on the side and transfer it over to rap. And once I got out of high school, I decided to take rapping a lot more serious because the New Orleans is known for, I hate to say it like this, but it's more known more for murdery rap. That's the best way to put it. We known for more violent rappers. And as I got deeper into high school, 2000, 2001, that's when I graduated. I got on Nas. So I went from from like UNLV rap to
Yeah.
like, whoa, you got this dude named Nas that exists. There's this dude named
Yeah.
AZ and Common and all these people that exist. And like even on the local
Crazy.
scales, like man, there's this dude named Mac that exists. This is cool.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to this a lot more than the I'm gonna do this to you and murder you and kill you and do this and rape your mama. It's like that's not really me. You know, it's cool. The beat cool,
Yeah.
but that's not really me. I don't see myself ever doing that. And then I saw these people that were telling more stories and doing more poetic, lyrical based rap, and I'm like, I can get jiggy with this. I like this. I can see myself going this direction. And like even before that, yeah, people like Mystical. That
Mm-hmm.
if I was trying to sound like Mystical, I would never rap because that is a one of a kind voice. It's like one of the best voices ever in music. So when
Mm-hmm.
I heard people like Nas, I'm like, all right, that's a little bit closer. That's something I can kind of mimic. I can sort of see myself in that. But some of
Yeah.
the people that I got on earlier in life, I was like, yeah, I can't do that. And then it kind of just evolved at that point. Ironically, I ended up working with like UNLV and even Mystical and some of these other people later on in life, and got to meet some of my heroes. Got to meet Mac once he got out, and Fiend and a few other people. So everything came full circle. But yeah, I got on my journey once
That's
college athletics was no longer an option for me. I got on my rap journey.
really so. It is so. So I got to ask you this, especially as a New Orleanian. Is there anybody you can think about who the rest of the country, anybody from New Orleans, who you say to yourself, I really, really wish the rest of the nation could hear this Joker?
It's so many people, man.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's this guy named Mid City AB. He calls himself. He changes his name every day. I think he called himself Diaspora Baby or something like that. Is his Instagram name currently?
yeah,
Amazing. He is an
yeah.
amazing rapper. Uh, he reminds me of Soldier Slim
Mm,
mixed with Common. It
mm-hmm,
doesn't go together, but when you hear it, it's like, man, the way he's telling the story in a very, very New Orleans manner, and it's a very
mm-hmm.
articulate manner, but it's very New Orleans in the slangs that he used, and it's very detailed. Like, man, this is I never heard nothing like this before. This is kind of cool.
Yeah,
So you got a guy
yeah.
like him. Not sure you're familiar with Flightches. Amazing,
No,
another amazing rapper. Check him out. It's just Flightches, like righteous, but with flight
yeah,
at the
yeah.
end.
Okay,
Amazing.
okay.
He's a producer. He reminds me of a young Kanye, but a more lyrical Kanye. He produces,
Mm,
writes his own
mm,
stuff. Amazing performer. Super duper cool father and everything. I like him
mm,
a lot.
mm-hmm.
It's a guy that I think could be anything if
Hmm.
heard by the
You
right
know,
people.
so now it's you. So you have this thing. So I got to tell you, man. Reparations. Um,
Oh no.
I I I bump that stuff, man. I love reparations. I think my favorite cut is "If I Was White." That's got to be my favorite cut from reparations. Um,
Yeah,
you have a really one of the things that I find very interesting about you and your lyrics is that yes, you're a storyteller, definitely a philosopher, definitely that. But what comes through in your lyrics a lot of times is your process of personal growth seems to be in your lyrics all the time. Is that accurate? Is
absolutely.
that something that you like to talk about, the fact that you have personally grown so much?
Absolutely. I think that's a big part, and it's just like I noticed that the majority of the MCs that I like, they show like a duality. Like
Hmm.
I did this, but I really regret doing this, and I could have did this a
Mm,
different kind of way. Like people like Ti and like even Nas and all that. A few people they sort
yeah.
of speak about how that probably wasn't the smartest decision. And like even like with Jay Z for instance, so people getting
Hmm.
on him now. They kind of mad at Jay Z because he did the 444 album, and it was a
Hmm.
great album. But it was like, man, Ghostface Killer did that 20 years ago, and Black Thought been rapping like this for 20 years now. He want to talk deep and talk about investing and all this stuff. Nah, that's not deep. So it's a weird power struggle. But I think everybody comes full circle at a point. They
Hmm.
just at a point where they feel like, yeah, that probably wasn't cool, or maybe I was kind of disrespectful to women, and now I have 2
Yeah.
kids and a wife now, and that might not have been a thing to do.
But I
I
mean,
sat in on something at Xavier one time, and I think Manny Fresh was the guest speaker,
hmm
and it was weird. This was like, ooh, this might have been right after Katrina, so maybe 2006, 2007, and Manny Fresh was speaking on the panel, and I saw him sort of cringe, like Manny Fresh said some wild things. Well, I don't know if it was the a verse on something, but it was like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. That's it's kind of weird because he was like, you talking to a crowd of 18 and 19-year-old women and
hmm
girls and college kids about what you gonna do to them in the bed and my dick so big and this kind of thing, and it was a little weird. I'm sure he's a different person now, probably in his 50s at this point,
yeah,
and his daughter might have literally been in that audience. So just
yeah.
retrospect.
But I mean, I think that's one of the things. It's interesting because the audience is never ready for their favorite artist to grow. I find they are never
Never.
ready for it. I remember I was watching. You remember VH1 did this? They did this docu series. It was Behind the Music. Remember they did Behind the Music, and I'll never
Absolutely.
forget. I'll never forget the episode they did on Metallica and
Mm.
the backlash that Metallica caught from their fans when they all cut their hair. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, these dudes have really been through a lot and they're not getting
Right.
any younger. They got to
Yeah.
grow up at some point. I mean, they got to
And you start
they
looking
got to
crazy after a while,
yeah,
trying to
yeah. I
look
mean,
like you looked at
yeah.
76.
Yeah, it's just like, come on, man. I mean, they got to grow. So I find this really interesting because Jay-Z's real fans, like his
Mm-hmm.
real fans, they hear it, they see it, and they're like, okay, I like this other level because he's taking
Yeah.
us to another level. And honestly, the people who really listen to Jay-Z, they catch everything he says. you
They
know,
get
they
it. Yeah.
they catch every little thing that he says. But the jokers who are really not the people who aren't ready to let go of some stuff, they're the ones who to
Mm-hmm.
me, they're the ones who seem to have the most trouble whenever an artist decides to transition. I remember when Prince decided he didn't want to sing some of his old songs anymore.
It's crazy.
Or he would do different versions of his old songs. And there were some people like, no, I like the nasty Prince, and other people like, no, I like this maturing Prince. It
There
was
was some
he,
pushback.
he just found
Yeah.
yeah he found a way to do it. So when did you decide when you went on this path of saying, okay, I have some other stuff that I want to talk about, and here's the other thing. I notice you talk a lot about the future too. You talk about the
Yeah.
future of your family. You talk about the future of people. When did that transition happen for you?
Um. Probably. That's a great question. Well, the future stuff. It's just I guess maturity. When I got into my mid 20s, early
hmm
30s, I had a family and kids, and just thinking about how I would want my story to read to them. This is all literally write my story through music at this point. So how do I want to
family
be
has a
remembered?
family has a way of doing that to you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
And I just wanted to make music that I was proud of. And in the past, this was
hmm
still after Katrina's, like maybe 2007, 2008. I, there was an artist I was performing at some I don't even know what I was performing at, but it was locally. It was a female artist that I respect a great deal, and I had a line, some kind of gay homophobic line about Tyler Perry or calling him
mm
dressing like Tyler Perry or something like that. And I watch the crowd when I perform. So I
mm
watch everything. So I watched the crowd when I perform. I watched her walk in, and I said that line. Her face dropped, and she turned around and walked out of the building. And at that point, I realized that I hurt somebody unintentionally,
Wow.
just trying to be funny.
Wow.
I
hmm
hurt somebody that I actually like. I was like, damn, that's kind of jacked up. And so at that
hmm
point, I was like, yeah, trying to be super duper punchliney and trying to get the jokes off and say something that's controversial, it's not worth it. And I got better ways to express myself. And I think I can articulate myself a little bit better than that. So
Wow.
I did.
That
Yeah. That
that's
was
like a
early
scene
in the
straight
game.
out of that's like a scene straight out of a movie.
Yeah. That's how I felt. I saw it. And it might have been 90-some people in the crowd, and I saw that one person walk in, and I'm rapping, and I'm like, yeah, I'm about to kill this. And I'm thinking, I got all these thoughts when I'm rapping these lyrics, and I'm seeing this one person walk in the door, and then I see their face change, and I see that I hurt them, and I'm still performing. Meantime, like, damn, I messed that up. All these thoughts going in my mind while doing these lyrics, and I still got like 4 more songs left. It's an interesting dynamic. It's
But
a
not
lot.
everybody, but also not everybody can do that. Like how many people are going to double down and they can say, no, 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 I am who I am. You know, now, yeah, that's one person who walked out. I don't care about her. She don't see the vision. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
You
there's a
know,
lot of people that like that. It's like, well, guess enough for her, and keep it moving. But
so,
nah.
so that means, okay. So here's one for you.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody were to say to you, well, you aren't being who you really are if you decide to change for one person, what do you say to that?
I think that humans are multifaceted anyway. It's like
Mm,
I could be a
mm,
rapper, and even a lot of these other rappers, like Ghostface and Styles P, for example.
mm,
They are like vegetarians and pescatarians and have plant-based diets.
mm,
And you could be like, man, why you never rap about eating plants all day? You be rapping about drugs and stuff. Like, why would I rap about that? That's my other life. That's what's going on, and it doesn't translate well musically. I might slip something in there, but
yeah,
that's not being me because I wasn't talking about it.
yeah,
Or some people
mm,
with their religion and their faith, or some people with their relationships. There's some people that don't
mm,
talk about their wives whatsoever. Like J. Cole got a wife and kid, and
mm,
nobody
mm.
knows. And Drake like strippers, but it took Pusha T to talk about it, and then it came out later.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just those different folks.
Drake. Oh, all right. You're listening to For Our Edification. I'm Eddie Francis, and we're talking to Austin Levy. Austin Levy is an MC. He's a businessman from New Orleans, straight out of the NO. And my man's is one of the 40 under 40 for Gambit. And this is a brother I have been wanting to talk to for a minute, actually. And if you're in New Orleans, or when you're in New Orleans, you got to visit Biscuits and Buns on Banks. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So now let's talk about Austin the businessman. When did that happen? When did you become a businessman? I mean, you already had the hut, you had the
Right.
studio. You already, you were an audio engineer, you're producing, you're doing all this stuff. When was the businessman born?
Uh so well, I'm not gonna say it's before music, but the seeds were planted before music. My parents, my dad, he's a waiter and been a waiter all my life. He's in his
Mm,
late 60s now, and he's still kind of waiting tables, but it's not a priority for him anymore. He does it,
hmm,
just for extra money at this point, and to make ends meet for certain things if he has a goal in mind. But my
mm,
parents have always owned homes, pretty much. Since I was about 8 years old. That was like the home that we lived in. My parents owned it and bought it, and that was a big thing for them. And then they went on to purchase a few other properties that people said, "Don't buy that house. You buying that? Well, that's terrible. It's on MLK. Don't do that." We talking late 90s. You buying a house
yeah.
on
Ooh,
Claiborne in the Ninth Ward? Don't do that. And
yeah.
now those houses that they bought way back when for $15,000, for $30,000, these houses are worth $280,000 and $350,000, and there's people knocking on their door every day trying to buy it. And
Mm.
I sort of saw those things, and they ingrained those things in me. So another part of the story that nobody knows. Why don't you keep to your true self and talk about this? So I went to Suno for a little while
Mhm.
after high school, and I didn't do well.
Mhm.
Nice way to put it. I wasn't completely invested in school. I was in at Suno
Mhm.
for criminal justice. I did that for about a year and racked up about $10,000 worth of debt. And I said, "Yeah, this sucks. I'm not doing this. I don't really want to be here." So I made another great idea. I joined the NOPD. Went to the
Really?
police academy. Yeah, went to the police academy. This was 2003. The process
Mhm.
started. I was 19 at that point. Made the decision kind of early. You can't hit the street until you're 21, so we waited until I was 20 to go through the police academy because I just simply didn't want to keep acquiring debt at that point with school
Mhm.
because I knew I wasn't into it. And that was like the best thing smoking. It's like, man, if you join the NOPD, you can make a whopping $35,000. Say, what? Man, I'm 19. Let's go. I do
Ching.
that. Got a winner. So me and my friend, we went ahead with it, and he hyped me up to do it. He said, man, we could be like Martin and Will and the Fresh Prince. We could be bad boys. This would be awesome.
Are
And
you
like I
kidding
said,
me?
granted,
Are you kidding? Are you kidding
that
me?
was
This
it.
way, this was really the vision.
That was the vision. At the 10th age of 19, making 20, it was like, this is it. We could be Martin and Will and Bad Boys. This is gonna be awesome. And then he didn't make it, and I was stuck there by myself, like, oh, what am I gonna do? Because the vision has altered a little bit. But so I went through the
Yeah.
police academy, finished police academy. My birthday is September 10th. Katrina happened August 31st, and
Yeah.
I never made it to the street, and I never joined the NOPD because my
Wow.
birthday was 10 days after Katrina, and I never turned
Wow.
back. Yeah, so that's kind of what happened with that. And I brought that up for a reason. I completely don't remember where I was going with that. But yeah, that's kind of part of the story too. But yeah, so at that point, while I was in the police academy, that's where it was going. While I was in the police academy, I was trying to plan my pivot to get out of that as well, because I was like, this is not it. I can't be a rapping NOPD officer. This is not going to work. This rap thing is going kind of okay. So let me not do that. So at
Hmm.
that point, I decided I was going to try and buy a double. I was going to closing on August 31st on a double
Wow.
in Algiers Point, and I said, hey, no, it wasn't August 31st. We pushed it back to whatever that Monday was. We pushed it back. It was supposed to be that Thursday, and people
Hmm.
were talking about like evacuating that kind of thing. And my real estate agent, he moved to Nashville, but he was like, yeah, man, nothing's gonna happen. But let's just wait until the weekend's over and see what happens. Then we'll go through at the close and we'll just push it back. And I couldn't get in contact with him. And that house is a double, and I'm probably sure in LG's Point is probably a $350,000 house now.
I was gonna say
And
Algiers Point, man. That thing
big money.
is it's up there.
Yeah,
It's up
yeah.
there. Algiers
So
Point is
I
popping, from what I
fumbled that one.
understand. Yeah.
It is. I fumbled
So
that one, and that's kind of been one of my regrets. So I kind of been like doing real estate stuff and Airbnb since then, and then we kind of just
mhm.
elevated and just been involved and just been consuming a lot of stuff. And I know music, in theory, for me, it could last forever, but music, in terms of how I was doing music with the touring and being out away from my family all the time and long studio hours and recording people until 2 in the morning, I saw an end to that part of music for me. So I pivoted. Yeah, that was the next
I
pivot.
ac- I actually remember. Oh man, I actually remember a couple of social media posts you did about kind of the pain points of being,
It's
a
rough.
studio owner. So
Yeah,
that was
it's rough,
you were like
man.
at some point I remember you were just like, man, I don't know about this because Joker's coming here wilding all the time, and I'm not
All the
sure I'm
time.
built for this anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because so as far as your being a performer is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
is that an itch you have to scratch, or because you
Absolutely.
just
It has to
you
be
just
scratched.
can't, yeah, you can't get it out of your blood, you have to perform at some
Can't.
point?
You,
Okay,
you
okay.
can't. In being a performer and just being a rapper in general, depending on what you're into it for. If you're into it for the
Yeah,
art and the competition part, it's some competition in it in your mind. Even if it's just in your mind, it's some
yeah.
competition. Like, man, that was whack. Or even like something as simple as, man, if I would have wrote to that beat, I would have did something better than that. You always hear how
Yeah,
you would do something. And like
yeah.
I read articles and hear stuff like Andre 3000 saying like in 2022 that he still wants to write so fresh and so clean. Cause like I just hear something that I need. I could have made that verse way doper. And that's something that
Mm,
just doesn't go away. It's strange. I still wake up at 2 in the morning writing rhymes. So that's never gonna go
really?
away. But yeah, it's bad, man. I got a problem. I got a little rap. It doesn't
All right,
go
so
away.
so the restaurant. When did you decide biscuits and buns on Banks? What? How? What? When? Because when
Um,
you announced it, I was just like, wait, what's he doing? Cool. Let me go check this out.
yeah, that's kind of how it happened. I was trying to. So I still work at NASA. Been working at
Mm.
NASA for going on 17 years now. Top flight security of the
Okay.
world. And that's been going good for me. And I made a nice amount of money doing that, and been able to travel the world pretty much off of just working at NASA and saving money and not spending frivolous. So
Mm.
I had a 401k and some other money that I saved up and some music stuff, and I was like, I need to make my money work for me. And that was that. And I was wrong because I am working for my money right now. Literally, it's hard. It's rough. I could have did some
Yeah.
other things, but initially, when we got the restaurant, the initial plan was to get a coffee house. Pretty much, I was gonna open up a coffee
Mm-hmm.
shop, and I was like, I could do that. You drink coffee, I drink coffee. Not much knowledge needed for it. You don't need 10
Mm-hmm.
employees to run a coffee shop. You can have one person, somebody, grandma, put them in there, let them sell coffee. You're happily ever after. Very little overhead. You can get like a little small kiosk kind of thing. Just need an espresso machine. I worked it out in my mind. I said, all right, let's go with it. And the price was right. Let's do it. And then it fell through. We got
Mm.
catfished. And the coffee shop
Mm.
didn't exist. I was attempting to acquire a business. And that's what happened with
Mm.
Biscuits and Buns. It was a pre-existing business and we acquired it. And they told me, we have this restaurant for the exact same price as the coffee shop that's no longer there if you want to go with that. So I'm like, what? A restaurant for the same price? That's a great idea. Why not? And we're here now. We're here
Hey
now.
man, but
It's
I
a
saw
learning
the
curve, but
picture.
it's going great.
But I saw the picture of the shrimp and grits that you posted the other day. I'm coming to get some
Bussin'.
shrimp and grits, man. Coming to get some
Absolutely. I
shrimp
have
and
some ready
grits.
for you.
So, how did it feel when you got the call that you were recognized as one of the Gambit's 40 under 40? How did that feel, man?
Whew. It's conflicting because
Mm.
I've done a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
in my life, and a lot of things I'm pretty accomplished when I think when it comes to making music and the other things that I do. And I would think if anything would have got me all these accolades, I would have thought it would be music. 20 years of my
Mm.
music career versus 8 months at that point of me being in the restaurant industry.
Right,
So
right.
it's rough. It's a little not defeating, but
Mm-hmm.
it just make you feel some kind of way. I guess is the best way to put it. It's like this what you like? Well, all right, I'll take it. I'll take it, and I know that I'm facing running up against the clock pretty much. So
Yeah.
I was aware. I said I just take it how I can. I'm about to be 40 next month at this
Mm.
point. So my last opportunity to do it, I'll take it. I'll take it gracefully. I'm gonna humble myself and take this wonderful award.
All right, so I have to, since you really, really focus so much on personal growth and this podcast, I love to talk about personal leadership, this concept of growing, really investing in yourself, developing yourself so that
Mm-hmm.
you can influence the people around you. And that's something that I also hear in your lyrics, that you really, really want to be able to influence people in some really healthy,
Absolutely.
positive way. Um, what would you say are three really big personal growth lessons that you have learned so far in life with all of your
Whew.
adventures? I mean, NOPD, the NASA thing, that's interesting. I mean, NOPD, NASA, hip hop, lyrics, studio engineer, restaurant owner. I mean, what are some of the three? Give me three big ones for you that you can think
Uh,
of, and if you want to add a couple after that, we'll go to top five too.
I would say never stop learning. Never be afraid to stop learning.
Mm,
Obviously, you can learn something from anybody. It's not always the rich, famous person that's going to give you the keys to success. Sometimes it could be somebody that you look down on. It could be a little old lady at Winn Dixie. And you're
mm,
talking to them, you're like, man, you know what? That make a lot of sense. Jews come from a lot of places.
mm,
Uh, Beyond that, just like I said, just never stop learning. Never be afraid of something new, because
mm.
I'm clearly not afraid of anything
No.
new at this point. And I guess just don't underestimate yourself, especially as long as you're prepared. If you do the work and if you prepare yourself and do everything possible that you can do to prepare
Mm-hmm.
yourself for the situation, I say go for it, because that's what fear comes from, pretty much from lack of
Mm.
preparation. That's that's
Mm.
that's what I learned. That
Hmm.
if you that's pretty much what fear is disguised as. That just means you're not prepared for the moment, and that's something that
Wow.
you can do. Go get prepared, and you'll go
That's
into it confident.
That is, you know what? I have to say this because I've had a lot of conversations with my wife about this lately. She is not from New Orleans, and so one of her things is she's always asking me these questions about growing up in New Orleans, and
Mm,
and what you just said is something that I think is really so interesting about. It is really a departure, I think, from what a lot of us are taught in New Orleans. You know, a lot of times we hear, don't do that. Are you crazy?
mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, what makes you think you can do that? You know, and things like
Yep.
that. And you really push hard against that grain. You push really really hard about that against that,
Twofold.
because for you it's, why would I not do it? That's what I
Why not?
hear from you. Why
Yeah.
not do it? You have
Yeah.
I mean, you have
It's
like
a
the
lot.
you have this serious, you only live once spirit, man. That's the thing that's
No.
so interesting to me about you.
Uh, the actual real thing. Now that I'm thinking about it too. The thing that fast tracked this whole entrepreneurial thing that I have going on now. During COVID, I switched locations of the studio. I was by Xavier, and then I switched it to a location near Carver, across the street from Carver. And
Oh wow.
I had a buddy of mine that I didn't even realize was my buddy, because I just know so many humans through all of these years. But it was a guy named Wall Street Trapper. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
I've not heard Wall
he
Street I like the name. Yeah.
yeah, he's super dope. He recorded his podcast out of my studio during COVID while I was at work. I was just giving the key and was like, man, just go do your thing, man. And he was a welder that worked for a company named Lucon at NASA, and I met him, just one of the 4,000 people that I check on the daily coming into the gate, that he remembered me. And I was like, all right, cool. Hey, man, you say you know me, let's go with it. And then the longer I talked to him, it made more sense. But I ended up hosting a bunch of podcasts. I think the actual podcast name is Black Wealth Renaissance. It's some guys from Lafayette, some young guys too, and they got like probably 600,000 followers on the Instagram.
Hmm.
And as part of that, Wall Street Trapper came over there and he's like, "What's up, Levy?" I'm like, "Hey, what's up, whoever you are?" And I figured out who he was, but he worked at Lucon. But long story short, with him, and in that podcast in general, while they were there, I met some people. I got on my wealth journey. I ran across the podcast Earn Your Leisure. Some of the
Mm.
people that's involved with that. The guy Wall Street Trapper, he was a welder, and I'm listening to his story. And this was the beginning of it. He is probably sitting on like $20 million since COVID, but he slept on his mama's sofa and took all of his welding checks and worked all of the overtime and didn't spend. And while he was in prison, he learned. He's a New Orleans person. Everybody went to jail here. That's everybody's story for some reason. But he was in prison for some nefarious activities, and he learned something from a guy that he was just in a bunk with for maybe said a week or two. He told him pretty much. This older white guy told him about the stock market and how to invest your money, and he took all he got out and changed his entire life. And now he has been on everything. He's been on the Charlemagne personal podcast. He's been on the Breakfast Club, I think 4 times now. He invests money for Rick Ross. He invests money for Dame Dash and a bunch of people. He is right out the ninth ward. And this has all happened in the last 24 months. Last 24 months. I literally see this happen with my own eyes. He like not struggling, but he trying to figure out how he gonna give me $60 to record a podcast. And now he's on the
Mm.
biggest podcast on the planet Earth. He's been on, like I said, been on Breakfast Club 4 times at this point. He helping Angela Yee invest and getting her into the stock market. And he
Mm.
bought, I think, 100 acres out in Atlanta, and he got a super dude. He was just here yesterday, matter of fact. I think he did the Orpheum. He's talking to crowds like that now from something he did 24 to 36 months ago. And also while with the Black Wealth Renaissance thing, the guys that came in, I met these people. What's the podcast is called Our Rich Journey, and
I've
so
heard
a
of it,
husband and
actually.
wife. Yeah, and they moved out. They retired at 40. They retired at 40. That was their goal, and that soon became my goal. And it's like, man, that's kind of cool. I got 2 years at that point to make it happen. And I was just like, man, I've just been at NASA way too long. There's videos of me at NASA with hair. I'm like the instruction manual. I'm over here checking badges, saying hi to people, 20 pounds lighter with a head full of hair. My chin was up here and I had no facial hair. It's like, man, this is depressing. I gotta go. But yeah, just seeing these people, and these are actual people that I actually know, people that I actually met. I went out to Portugal, not for them. I was just going to Portugal because why not? And I went out there and hung out with them. They're like, man, these are regular people. They cool as hell. So it's just knowing these kind of people and they being attainable and tangible, real, actual people. That was like, man, I'm kind of connected. I know some people. I'm in a lot of rooms. I can just do this myself. So this is kind of the beginning of the journey that everybody's seeing, and I'm kind of transparent with it on Facebook and on Instagram, and I keep everybody in the loop on what's going on, so that there's no illusions about it just being very easy, or that my rich fairy grandmother gave me some money and I hit the lottery. I heard that one, man, Levy hit the lottery, man. He buying up the block. So no, not really. No. If I hit the lottery, I would do something else. Like never come back.
Yeah, it's like, no, but you wouldn't know if the lottery got in. You would definitely know. And well, my man Austin Levy, man, MC, businessman, Gambit, 40 under 40. My brother, thank you so much for paying me a visit on For Our Edification and Biscuits and Buns on Banks. You're in New Orleans, you gotta go. I'm coming to get my shrimp and grits, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you are invited on September 10th. I think it's the date I'm going with. We are doing the tasting. Don't tell everybody else, though. So if you're watching this podcast, I'm not talking to y'all. I'm just talking to Eddie Francis. You are invited to the tasting, man. And your lady friend and the wife.
Oh, okay, cool.
You and his wife.
We're going to be there.
I'm mad.
All right, my brother. Man. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. And thanks again to Austin Levy for joining me on this episode of For Our Edification. You can connect with him and find out more about him by going to the information in the show notes. Don't forget, you can go and check him out in person. Also, if you want to check out his restaurant, but then you can listen to lyrics, all that good stuff. And don't forget also that you can get past episodes of For Our Edification by going to eddiefrancis.com. You can go to YouTube to get some past episodes or wherever you get your podcasts. All right? I'm only asking you to do 3 things, by the way. Download, give feedback, and share. For Dr. Halim Malik Francis, I'm Eddie Francis. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of For Our Edification.